by the fact that 2 players on Eternity, 3 players actually have a Roughnecks tag. So I was like, it's Roughnecks. No, it's not. But it's Eternity versus Superteam EU Kappa. We are into the picks and bans. Very similar bans actually to most of the day. Yasuo banned out once again, Riven, Elise, and Ziggs. So nothing all that special yet in this picks and bans phase.
Indeed. We've seen a lot of interesting picks today, Stress. We've also seen the Yasuo actually being played rather than banned, which was in both the top lane and the middle lane, so we might see something even more different in the upcoming games, but this time it has been banned out.
Okay, so let's have a look at both of these teams just to discuss where they've come from. Eternity are an organization that have been around for a while and have had many challenger teams as well in the European challenger scene. Superteam EU Kappa, however, normally would have gone under the name Random XDD, which some people might know from the Ranked 5's ladder. Now that is now called Superteam EU Kappa, however they are playing with a substitute of Yerrow on the side of Superteam EU down in that support role.
Yeah, so ChewdUp we've seen in a couple of different teams. He was in one of the English teams, which was, if I can remember correctly, it was British Tea Time, I think, or British Coffee Time, yeah. For a while, Mozilla was, of course, in Reason Gaming, so it was kind of a conglomeration of a lot of different players, and as you mentioned, Eternity have a new roster every other week, so we'll...
Wow, I wasn't quite going to say that, but Eternity are a team that seem to breed quite a lot of talent, I think is a good way of putting it, that there are quite a few players that have played on Eternity that have gone on to better things. So,
well, I wasn't going to say that either.
No, I meant like LCS, a high level of challenger. I'm digging myself a hole now. I meant bigger things, perhaps.
Anyway, so we'll move on to
and now that I've dug a hole, it's time to announce our Twitter giveaway winner while we are waiting on a couple of picks here. Yeah, there we go. Eternity have settled finally on Rengar, who has been picked up. So our Twitter giveaway, we were giving away an Evo ZX headset. We do have 5 to give away this weekend. So our first winner is, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, is Lignum Silver. We'll be in contact with you about how to get your hands on that headset, but congratulations. You have won the first Evo ZX headset. We'll be giving away another one today and then 3 tomorrow. So make sure you join us later in our next Best of 3 series where we'll be giving you the info of how to win yourself a creative Evo ZX headset. Now, what will we see out of Superteam Kappa? You can take their name into account by the fact that they're probably going to troll us on the picks and bans phase, so I don't expect to see Teemo locked in here.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be Superteam EU Kappa without a hover over Teemo or indeed Heimerdinger, so we'll just wait until they actually settle on a legitimate champion. But Rengar is a champion who we've seen a lot of in the top lane, usually isn't picked if obviously Shyvana or Dr. Mundo is open, but it's just very difficult to push out. He offers a lot of burst if you build up him damage, he'll generally like to gank the middle lane at level 6, and then apart from that, he'll build tank and he'll like to split push, but he's just very difficult to play against at the moment.
Locked in Evelyn have Superteam EU Kappa, who we saw the predictions coming into the preseason patch that Evelyn would be stronger with the changes to Vision. We saw that for a little bit and then Evelyn got banned out quite a lot. Teams started really to focus their play around shutting Evelyn down. So we've seen Evelyn have great success. It just depends on how well Eternity can do trying to spot out Evelyn as often as possible to really just try and get a good enough read on her jungle pathing so that you can prepare for those ganks. Eternity on the other side will be looking to pick up Thresh. There are a couple of big picks available. Lucian's still available, Sivir as well, and Jinx, who it looks like they're hovering over here.
Yeah, Evelyn is a little bit of a risky pick, and I say that because if you do not get these early ganks off, then you don't transition well into the mid game because she kind of falls off at that point and then perks up towards the late game again. But Evelyn, if she goes for a gank, doesn't work out and dies, can work out horrifically because there's a lot of junglers who can capitalize on a jungler who is behind, specifically like Shyvana, like Elise, and it makes it very difficult to catch up past that point. So Evelyn needs to get those early ganks to work, and as you just mentioned, if you get the correct read, then it makes it very difficult for Evelyn to do anything.
ChewdUp will lock in Lucian, as that will be his AD carry, and looks like that the pairing of ChewdUp and Yerrow, who, as I believe you did mention earlier, did play together on British Tea Time quite a while back. I wonder how their synergy will be on this one, because it's a little bit difficult to go straight back to duoing again with somebody that you've played a long time ago with. So that'll be one interesting factor in this game. Wonder who Ginsu is about to pick up.
Yeah, we'll see if they can kind of get that out of their memory banks and come back into how strong their bottom lane actually was in that UK team. So, Ginsu, I got confused because I thought that was like Ginsu, and yeah, but Strategas of course did pick up the Jinx and have got that very solid bottom lane of Fresh and also the Jinx combination. So ChewdUp picking in the Lucian, synergizes very good with every other support because he just trades off very efficiently with every other AD carry. So it doesn't he doesn't need a support to complement him all that well, but Annie is already being picked.
Yeah, no, we're looking for Eternity's final two pickups here. They know the jungler, they know the top lane out of reason, so they can't pick. They can't look for a counter pick in mid here, so they have to pick something that's going to be consistent. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Gragas or Orianna, two of the more consistent mid laners. Very safe to farm, not really that much of a risky pick. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Gragas has been hovered over, and Vi in the jungle, perhaps. It looks like those will be the two pickups there.
Yeah, so again, Gragas is something we see in the mid lane almost every game alongside Orianna if those are both open. And then Renekton in the top lane against Rengar is basically, if you have action in the early game, you can get a kill. If not, then they farm out till 40 minutes. So they have the chance to literally do nothing. But by having that jungler, they might have the opportunity to kind of swing that one way or the other, especially with Evelyn being on the board.
Yeah, and they had the hover over on LeBlanc. That's just to keep in the minds of Eternity that LeBlanc is a champion that a couple of members of Superteam can play. And again, unsurprisingly, Vi gets picked on one side with the counter of Kayle open on the other. Now, Vi's not really a strong enough champion to first pick in this kind of scenario, so there's no point in banning Kayle, because you're not going to first pick Vi, you're going to first pick a Rengar or a Shyvana or a Mundo. So that's why this Kayle is being left open as that counter pick, and I think that's a very smart pickup here from Superteam.
Yeah, indeed, and I'm not surprised that they would lock that in at all. There we go, and I am a couple seconds behind as I am spectating over the stream, but we've got about a minute just to talk about these compositions.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of time. It's not too surprising, as we said, to see that Kayle. Eve is a little bit more of a surprising pickup, but it's a champion that has the place in the meta. Not quite as strong as Eve used to be, although with the vision changes can get into lane, but you can see her coming if you ward around her camps, ward in the right places. Now, we're going to head to a very short... We're live with game number 1 between Superteam EU Kappa and Eternity Gaming in the Scan Invitational, powered by Netgear, Be Quiet, and Creative Sound Blaster. This should be a very interesting series, as both of these teams haven't been seen all that much in Challenger, and it looks like Eternity want to be the aggressive team to start this one out.
Yeah, there's been a little couple change-ups, and this time, indeed, as you mentioned, we've got Eternity pushing into this jungle. Not actually the invade route we see too often from a lot of these teams, but this will be the one they're taking, Yerrow off to the side, and so is Exileh. Now, Evelyn coming in from the backside, looking maybe to get that early ward down. Again, I keep wanting to call them Roughnecks, but Eternity are just, again, not able to do too much, and didn't even get that ward out either.
Yeah, although Ginsu has to be a little bit careful there. He is stealthed, but of course, being in close proximity to a member of Eternity would spell trouble for him. But looks like neither team are going to be overly aggressive here. Warding out from Yerrow is going to be in that bush, so they will force out the red trinket already.
Yeah, not a bad trade, as in fact they have gone for the red trinket first instead of going for the full lineup of those warding totems, which is something we do see from a lot of teams shown by Superteam EU Kappa. So everyone going to go for a more standard start, and Ginsu will just find himself up at red buff, and we'll have to start with the blue buff, which is something that not many junglers do, but Evelyn really needs the mana regeneration.
Yeah, that mana regen is incredibly important, and also the cooldown reduction onto those hate spikes allows to clear earlier. A point about the trinkets, there's a few different schools of thoughts on who should be buying the red trinket to start the game. A couple of players I've spoken to, predominantly junglers, have said jungle likes to have that early as you get good map control. There's more fluidity to having that if you can spot wards around the map, allows you to set up ganks. However, I've heard a couple of AD carries and supports actually talking about picking it up on the AD carry, because in that bottom lane, if you can red trinket out their ward, the AD carry can clear the ward very easily, and it means that you don't have to force your support, especially if they're melee range, to come forward to clear a ward. So there are a few different strategies with the wards, and talking about strategy, Strategas gets taken very low in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and if you had actually gone for the red trinket on Strategas, he wouldn't have been able to get anywhere near that ward, so not like that's a viable solution. But that's kind of ChewdUp on Lucian in a nutshell. Like, Lucian will trade against any other AD carrier very efficiently, one of the reasons why he's so good right now, and it just means that they're going to have to play a little passively until they land that clutch hook.
Yeah, and Yerrow's picked up the Doran Shield to begin this game, as opposed to the Ancient Coin. However, in the mid lane, Exileh is under attack.
Indeed, Ginsu from the side, however, Tiridus wants this kill. Body Slam picks up the first blood. Ginsu is still trading off. He will claim that kill. Red buff is ticking down onto Ginsu, onto 7 HP. Mowarth is keeping up the chase. He's got the Vault Breaker, not quite in range. Already utilized his flash. I don't think he can get in range. He definitely sees him, and oh.
Very close. Ginsu was trying to get the stealth back on, managed to get it, but was just being chased out in close proximity. So a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Eternity off a nice play there by Tiridus in the mid lane. And just to finish that point in the bottom lane, that Doran Shield is going to allow Yerrow and Chew to be a lot more confident in their trades, provided they don't get hooked, because they'll be able to take more damage.
Yeah, and MikeyR already being ignited in the top lane from Mozilla, just exerting that dominance, and Mowarth looking for the next gank onto Exileh, knocks him back with the Vault Breaker, gets the denting blows. Tiridus lands a very easy barrel roll and picks up another kill as Nico's in the bottom lane, picks up the kill onto ChewdUp. Yerrow has been hooked away from his AD carry, and Strategas retreats on very low HP.
And it's so strange to see 2 kills already from a Vi in the jungle, and in fact 3 that they were all involved with. And it's just so strange to see a Vi gank the same lane and get 2 kills get a kill in both times, because Vi normally doesn't reach her peak in ganking until level 6, where you get Assault and Battery. But this early on, that's a great start for Eternity, 4-1.
Yeah, like, Vi's upfront burst early game is massive, especially when you get like the damage spike at level 5 as well. You can basically just Vault Breaker, channel that, combo that in with the rest of the damage from your lane, and that sometimes is enough just to kill your lane opponent, as we've seen on Exileh. So that's put him 0-2 this early into the game. Actually hasn't upset the CS too much, but definitely has upset that lane with 2 kills on Gragas.
Yeah, that's going to stall out Exileh's ability to hit 6 and get that intervention. Both mid laners are level 4, but we'll have a look at the experience between the two. As you said, farming is fairly close between them as well, but that's kind of a race to level 6. If Exileh can hit level 6 and have that intervention available for the explosive cask attempt out of Gragas, he may just survive it.
Indeed, and in the bottom lane right now, that extra kill means they can be a little more aggressive, but I'm paying more attention to that top lane, because Ginsu is in the bush to get the stun down with Ruthless Predator, kill the Meek, and Ginsu gets himself a second kill.
That's what they needed right there. That's going to allow them to have a little bit more confidence. I mean, when you drop 4 kills this early on into a game, you kind of dip your head a little bit, and you start to play without the confidence that you really need to take advantage of lane advantages, and we'll see where the super team have now really raised their heads once again, as chat seem to be raising their Kappas.
Well, an unfortunate side effect is when they start talking about Super Team Kappa, it turns into Kappa. So Exileh is just being pushed around, and Yerrow gets hooked as well. Nika's just knocks them back with the flay, but now Ginsu looking for even more blood. Strategas is surely going to fall. Hate spikes come out, and the Lantern will just jump onto that fresh.
And Ginsu's having a really good game so far. Tiridus gets a kill in that mid lane. Looked like he hit level 6 before Exileh hit level 6, and that's the engage that we were expecting to go that way. Intervention wasn't available. Managed to dive the tower as well for it. But it looked like the kill got traded back by the tower aggro.
Yeah, he died for his troubles, and as a result, they won't have Gragas to contest this dragon, so that will actually go to the super team, and that is exactly what they need. They're a kill down, but a dragon will more than offset that.
Yeah, we'll give them a slight gold advantage, but this early on in the game, that's not all that much to talk about. Mowarth is looking to go in 1-on-3, but the members of Superteam EU are quite low. Yerrow will get Assault and Batteried for that final damage there. That's another kill from Mowarth.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if the ultimate was perhaps necessary, but if he had this flash there, then maybe it was. Ginsu and Exileh of ChewdUp will get on out, but this will definitely mean that the blue buff is going to be taken away, which will hurt Kale.
Yeah, that's going to give Kale a little bit more trouble in lane. One of the factors of Kale is how often you can get that Righteous Fury off cooldown to allow her to farm at range. Blue buff's cooldown, although it did get changed, actually has reached a point where it's still able to let her have almost consistent activation of that Righteous Fury E, especially when you start to pick up a couple of items like a Codex. Really allows you to farm as often as possible in ranged mode and not force you to come forward in lane.
Yeah, basically turns Kale into a ranged champion, which is always a good thing. And now with Ginsu just moving into that jungle, he's level 5 to that level 7 of Mowarth, but is trying to take this blue buff away from them. Tiridus clearing up that pink ward, and Exileh just trying to shove him away. I think they know exactly where Evelyn is because the collapse is coming out. Ginsu has smited that away. Mozilla just sitting at the side, and MikeyR unable to react quite in time, and Tiridus rests him just to clear up the mess in the jungle.
So equally that will hurt Gragas a little bit. His cooldown reduction won't be quite as low as he would like it. But nevertheless, as soon as he starts building further towards that Athene's Unholy Grail, he'll have the extra cooldown to be able to throw out those abilities more often. And as we reach a slight lull in the game, as both junglers do take the remaining jungle camps that are available, this is a very close game so far. 6 kills to 4 doesn't quite tell the entire story because of that earlier dragon. But the gold is slightly in favor of Eternity Gaming.
Yeah, and it's nice that the kills are on Evelyn as well, because Evelyn typically has issues when you get to the mid-game, and she hasn't had a good early game, because she just doesn't really have the kit. But now she's got some actually itemization, that's fantastic. Mowarth finds himself Yerrow in the bottom lane, the Sultan Battery comes out, and the Vault Breaker, Ginsu from the side for the counter-engage, Agony's Embrace comes down, and the Death Sentence will indeed whiff. Culling comes through, picks up one, Strategas turns around, Flake comes across, that's another kill, dash forwards from Relentless Pursuit, double kill for Ginsu.
And there's the partnership out of ChewdUp and Yerrow. They clearly have gotten right back to the zone. They knew exactly where they needed to be, and the culling hit solo target right the way along on Strategas. That's what you want out of the culling, is that there's nothing there to disrupt it. They weren't in the minion waves, it was off to the side, and it meant that he got a full channel off for the damage. Did have to use E to just make sure he was in position for it, but that was a really nice set of kills there, and it results, I believe, in the turret going down in favor of Superteam EU Kappa.
Yeah, and an early bottom tower is fantastic for dragon control because there's no safe sanctuary of that tower to retreat to. It just makes it a little easier to pick up that objective, and especially when they have a brawly type of setup, they'll want to be going for that dragon, if not for the dragon, but for the fight.
Now, how will Eternity be able to answer this back? They have got good damage onto that mid lane turret, and we've talked time and time again at how important mid lane is for controlling your jungle in the areas around Baron and Dragon. But you mentioned with the bottom lane tower being down, that does give Dragon control over to Super Team EU. Dragon is not due up for at least another 2 minutes yet. So what will Super Team EU be able to do here with the access to rotate their lanes here? With that bottom tower down, there's not all that much need other than to stop the aggression from Eternity in that bottom lane for their duo pairing to go back down there, which they are.
Yep, and MikeyR and Mozilla both pop their ultimates in the top lane, but if Mozilla pops his, then MikeyR just kind of uses his and wanders away. But this could be the re-engage. Mowarth has actually used MikeyR to bait him out, but Mozilla has just kind of wandered off, and it's very difficult to push either of these laners out of that lane.
It's really weird to see Renekton not be able to push his lane opponent out. I mean, MikeyR has taken a lot of damage, but you saw just there, MikeyR manages to heal that one straight away, gets himself back up above half health. But Renekton was for so long known as a lane bully and so difficult to deal with up in that top lane that in this current meta, you don't see as much Renekton. He's still picked fairly often, but it's not the 100% pick ban that we saw for a long time with Renekton. Just a very interesting piece of this pre-season patch.
Yeah, and it's because Rengar just has basically the same sustain, if not more, than Renekton, so it's just difficult for him to push him out, and indeed the same goes for Mundo and Shyvana. So the Warden there's going to see out Yerrow, but he hasn't actually noticed Ginsu is in this lane, and even though they know Yerrow's up to the top side, they're going to assume that something's happening, and Mowarth is coming out to react.
Yeah, and this could be a bit of an explosive 3v3, although they're there before Vi.
Yeah, Tibbers has dropped down already, and surely Nikos will be falling, drags them into the box. That should be enough to keep him away from the rest of his team. 1-for-0 trade, not super terrible.
That was a really nice trade there for Superteam EU, because Dragon is up in 30 seconds. This will give them the ability to get wards established around, although there's a bit of a trade there, forced out the intervention from Kale in that mid lane.
Oh, Ginsu found himself Mowarth, and that definitely is a 6-1 Ginsu who's doing a lot of damage. Exileh pushing out Tiridus in the middle lane, but they have to be very aware of Evelynn. Evelynn is not someone you typically expect to be wandering in your jungle and 1v1ing you.
That's what we were saying during the pregame, is they haven't really been able to establish wards to catch Evelynn on her rotations. Here comes Mozilla into the mid lane.
Scary Crocodile has entered the fray, but it's not something they can go any closer onto. Mowarth pushing forwards, does not have the ultimate, but MikeyR has popped his own. Doesn't quite get in range and just kind of appears in mid.
Superteam aren't ready to fight this. Tibbers is not available. There's still well over half of the cooldown still to go before they can use that for initiation. So they were just being careful that they didn't get caught in the counter engage. So good play out of Superteam, but it does mean that they end up sacrificing the dragon control. They will look to rotate down to contest this, but can they make it in time?
This has put them in a very poor position for Dragon. The AD carry has gone back. The cooldowns are on cooldown, so it doesn't look like they're going to go anywhere near that. Not going to touch that with a barge pole and just go for their own buffs, which is probably going to be a little bit easier to secure. I say that, but they've just cut their own vision and will potentially be contesters, and as I say that, Eternity just back off.
Yeah, Eternity will look to rotate around to the middle lane. Ginsu is there, but he's 1v4 right now until ChewdUp can make it there. Ginsu takes the Assault and Battery, and that's a tower for Eternity.
Yep, CC'd for days, and now Mozilla actually comes in, might be taken down himself, has been hooked by a fantastic death sentence from Nikos, but now MikeyR also just completely chunked from Exileh and ChewdUp. So 1-for-1 trade, but the tower has fallen to Eternity.
I have a feeling, though, Superteam will end up looking to take this middle tower. There's good wave clear from Gragas with that barrel, but as the waves come in and in, if Superteam decide to stay there, they may be able to push it, but they feel like they've got too much in that bottom wave for a stack, so they will go and clear that one out, foregoing the middle lane tower for now.
Yep, so both of the top laners most likely going to go for the Sunfire Cape and just kind of bat away at each other until something happens, but nothing really will unless there's some intervention from another laner or indeed the junglers, and Vi's 2-1 and 2, so picking up the Spectre's Cowl and the Spirit of the Ancient Golem, so a more just conservative tanky build overall.
Something we've seen all day is just how close all of these European teams are, and it really just comes down to the team fights. The European Challenger scene is so very close between all of these teams. The gold is practically even between these two, and we've seen that during the day completely, and that's why we run tournaments like that. That's why Scan and Creative Sound Blast and Netgear and Be Quiet have put on this tournament here for people just to see and for us to showcase how good the European Challenger scene is right now. And in this game, we were in a bit of a lull period, but the towers in the top lane are still standing, and that's something that's a little bit rare these days.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this new season here, Stress, and especially because we have Ocelot's team up later, which should be very interesting. But right now, we're sitting between Eternity and Superteam Kappa, and we are in the first game of this best of 3.
Now, Mozilla and MikeyR once again trading in the top lane, and they just haven't really been able to shove all that much. You can see the Superteam EU Kappa are heading up towards this. This is what I was expecting a little more out of them. They're pushing up now to try and clear through that turret, but it kind of opens up the mid lane for the rest of Eternity to head down. And it just looks like both teams are fairly split now across the map and very indecisive on where they're going.
Oh, well, Rengar's their prize, but they're going to find themselves Mowarth first as Mozilla looks to try and contest as Flash comes out. Mowarth pops himself over the wall, and at least they got a flash out of that, but maybe not the kill they were fishing for.
No Nami in this game, or Fizz,
yeah.
So no kills that anybody's fishing for, but Mozilla might be in trouble here. Graves isn't in this game either.
Yeah, I know. It's sad times, just so many puns to be made, but not the right champions.
Guess these players. We should give them a list of champions that are pun worthy that they can have in the games. But I think they might get a bit mad.
Perhaps, but you know, this is all about the casters and our enjoyment, right?
Of course, that's the primary
Kappa.
reason we do this. Kappa. Oh God, no! Raise your kappas, chat, please.
Anyway, so Ginsu just finds himself in the jungle. They're going to clear out these wards, and none of these pink wards have actually survived for very long in this game. I think is something we can say here, Stress.
Yeah, it's something that we see we see different things depending on the teams that are playing. Sometimes you'll see teams really focus heavily on clearing the wards out, and including pink wards, which of course are visible. Sometimes you'll see pink wards stay around for a very long time if you can get the positioning right on them, but they have been falling very quickly, and I think that's partly because Superteam EU Kappa know that how vital they are in this game, because Evelyn is 6-2, so they need to clear out those pink wards to really stop Eternity from being able to stem the flow of that aggression.
So both of these teams have very solid team fights, and in fact both really operate very well in the defensive, because you want to disengage with Gragas or get themselves in very good position where you can split them up, or you have a re-engage or a disengage by like Agony's Embrace, and then you can use her as like a lightning rod with intervention. So as we're not seeing too much happen, the Tibbers will be used on a single target, but because it's so long between each engagement, Flash is always going to be up.
Flash will always be up. The turret now is down, however. That mid lane finally falls for Superteam EU Kappa. Will they convert this to anything extra? Because Dragon is up in 1 minute. Can they secure themselves a team fight, or at least lane pressure, so that they can rotate around? They're getting pushed in fairly hard here in the mid lane by Eternity, and down in the bottom lane, ChewdUp isn't able to respond. The hook lands.
Oh, lands onto Yerrow. Intervention used on the support player. Nikos gets instantly blown up. Assault and Battery finally finishes off Yerrow along with the Super Mega Death Rocket. So 1-for-1 trade on the support. On the tower will again equalize the game.
Yeah, equal all the time in this game is just, again, just showing just how close these teams are to each other, and it's one of the great things about working in the European Challenger scene. As Ginsu looks like he's found out Mowarth, but takes a cork straight to the face as Jinx will throw out the zap.
Yep, so Dragon spawning in 5 seconds will mean we'll see something happen, and it should be a team fight. So Dragon now spawning. Both of these guys wailing away at the Dragon. The Cork comes over the wall once again. Tiridus is ready with his ultimate, which is off cooldown. Oh, the steal from Mowarth. Does he have an escape plan? Well, he's got Nikos coming over the wall, so he should be running to his aid, but this is not really a fight that Super Team Kappa won.
And Eternity have really good potential to steal here. They've got Vi who can go in and then flash back out if it were available. Of course, wasn't available then. Didn't actually require the exit. But on top of that, Tiridus with the explosive cask has massive damage on that burst. They didn't require that either. They just pretty much ran in, stole it, and have run out. So they have great steal potential. Didn't even really need to use any of it.
Yeah, they were just threatening enough by themselves to not even require their composition to save them. Ginsu lands a perfect ultimate onto 4. That's not Ginsu, it was Ginsu who moves on to a second target. Huge barrel knocks back ChewdUp and the carry of Exileh, and the rest of the team drop below 30% HP as Yerrow just desperately tried to take down the ward and maybe going a little too close to the beast of Gragas.
There's a slight problem in my mind here for Ginsu. On that Evelyn, there's two different schools of thought on building Evelyn. You can either build her Spirit of the Ancient Golem and be tanky, or Spirit of the Spectral Wraith and have extra damage. The problem with the Spectral Wraith build is you're relying entirely on the shield that comes out from Agony's Embrace to hit as many people to make you as tanky as possible to survive through the team fight. And I'm wondering whether following up with a DFG is going to be the right answer, because unless they can survive through the burst, those 6 kills that have been given to Evelyn will go to waste, because she'll take massive damage from the explosive cask.
Their composition is kind of a spin on like the old Evelyn Chen combination, where you had the shield and you had the Agony's Embrace shield, and you just ran into the team with full damage builds and just did as much as you could, because you have to focus the Evelyn, but she's been shielded by like a 2-3k shield, which you can't do anything about. This time they have intervention to do that tool for them. Well, because they've always been on the defensive, it's usually someone getting caught, intervention going on them, and then Evelyn using her ultimate to use that for survivability. So they're never able to combo that together. together. So hopefully, if they're on the aggression, then they should be able to use that combination, and Evelyn can build as much damage as he likes.
You again, top lane, Mozilla and MikeyR are just going to sit there and trade against each other. Still surprising that those towers are still up at 22 minutes into the game. Neither one can shove each other out of lane. Superteam might be looking to do something about this again. Last time they tried, they got a little bit caught out trying to do it, but Ginsu has found himself in the lane. There is a pink ward in the river, so they just need to get the position here to be able to push through that tower to get that gold. But it's an even game state. Even on gold, even on towers, the kills slightly separated, but the dragons have equalized that. And this game we could be in for a long one.
Yeah, and it hasn't quite hit the breaking point. Finally, MikeyR has been aggressed upon. We'll see if they have enough damage. He's going to pop his ultimate. He's also got full stacks, so he'll be able to get the battle roar off for that extra healing. And indeed just walks out of that gank like nothing even happened. So the longer this lane goes on, Stress, it's going to be even harder and harder to push these guys out.
It's just, this is preseason in a nutshell. It's so easy for teams to equalize the any kind of disparity in gold or kills by getting objectives and really just farming and holding the game to being a bit later. It still requires a lot of team skill, but really is a big departure from the early game 2v1s that we saw on the previous patch from most of Season 3, where we had very fast games and fast pushing compositions.
Yeah, it means if you get two equally matched teams, you can definitely get games like this, where you'll eventually keep building up the tension until you get that one breaking point. And several times we have just seen games go on for 15 minutes with like 2-3 kills, and then a team fight, and then the game ends, because you can push that far with the death timers. So we might see a full-on team fight here, but the last couple team fights has literally resulted in one person dying. The first one is going to be Nikos, and now it's a 4 versus 5. The Culling comes across. Big Tib is on to 4, and that does look like it's going to be the end of it. In fact, it won't be. Huge Gragas barrel onto another 5. Ginsu will surely drop. Yerrow has been healed up. Mozilla backs himself up. Again, Annie will fall flash forward by Mowarth, and indeed, the ultimate has not been used just yet. Shutdown comes out. That's the clean ace. 5 for 1. Not quite clean, slightly dirty, but they still got 5 players.
The ace that stepped in a puddle. But, it's a 5-for-1 trade. A massive Grag assault. That was exactly what Tiridus was looking for, and that's exactly what I was talking about. Ginsu could not survive that damage. He bursted everything to kill Thresh, and then didn't have Agony's Embrace available. It was still about an 1/8 of its cooldown remaining when the fight kicked off. You can only intervention one person as well, and the massive damage out of Gragas. I believe he had that Rabadon's before the fight as well, so just so much damage. Completely decimated the super team.
Well, there's the breaking point, Stress, and the Baron has been picked up. A kill in the advantage, and Mowarth is just chilling in the Baron pit. Oh, he gets out, and didn't even need the Lantern to assist him to do so. So now that they have the Baron, they're going to pick up a whole plethora of items and then look for some sort of push.
Yeah, Gragas had picked that up a couple of minutes before that fight, and you can see just how much the chasing potential of Jinx at the tail end of that fight. They got so many low that with the Get Excited passive, Jinx just kept refreshing that passive, and getting the extra movement speed allowed them to just completely take out that top tower, take out the team, and get the Baron. And that's a massive power play that has swung the game in favor of Eternity.
Absolutely, and right now they do get ahead in terms of items, as Mowarth again looks for that steal, but doesn't quite have the combo right there, and indeed wasn't there in time. But Evelyn is still something they had to be wary of. 7, 3, and 2, huge amounts of damage onto the right person could be or could spell the end of a team fight. But I don't think Eternity have to be too worried about that in the next couple minutes.
Now, Eternity with that Baron, what will they use that to get from the map here? That's the important question, is how well can you use the Baron buff? Of course, we'll give you that extra team fighting potential and the regeneration. So with the inner towers being the towers remaining for Super Team, how will Eternity decide to split themselves up?
That is the question, and everyone has kind of fanned out right now just so they can get that early warning sign that Eternity is going to make a play. Then everyone will kind of converge on that location. Indeed, the ping has come down onto the middle lane, and they will just try and defend this with their lives. But Yerrow and being fairly squishy and the tower being below 40% might mean they will just want to concede this.
No, they aren't pushing in towards that middle lane, as you said. May choose to concede that tower. It is very low, so they have to be careful that they don't just get engaged upon by Eternity. We've already seen Tiridus with one big Gragas ultimate. I wonder whether we'll see the same out of him. They will just fall back from this turret.
Yeah, indeed. And now that the outer turrets are also up, we might see Eternity just go to a different lane, push it in, look for another tower. And especially with Jinx, as long as they have a couple seconds, they should be able to take it before we see Superteam EU Kappa react. But they can't really go for an inhibitor turret at this stage.
Superteam EU looking... I'm wondering how they're going to itemize here to try and stop Eternity, because that Gragas ultimate is doing so much damage that they really do need more magic resistance here, and they haven't really been able to pick it up. We don't see many defensive items on most of the members out of Super Team at all. You can see Deathfire Grasp still alongside that Spectral Wraith. No other items for Evelynn, and only 1,000 gold on a person. Wouldn't be surprised to see perhaps a Zhonya's Hourglass picked up, or maybe even a Banshee's Veil, just something to survive a little bit longer in these fights.
It's very difficult to drop the Gragas before he combos you as well, because it's not a champion where you can be like, okay, we nuke him down during the team fight, great. Tiridus is most likely to use his ultimate very early on. We saw it later on because that was a very odd team fight at the top, but normally you'll see it towards the start of the fight, so you can't look for that focus before he's already expended it. And then we see a re-engage right here. Ginsu, they have now focused Tiridus. He doesn't get a perfect ultimate this time around, and 1-0 will be the scoreline as Mozilla is pushing very hard into that back line. MikeyR jumps right back in again, and the slam and combo from Mowarth picks up another double kill, 2 for 3. They're very slowly turning this one back around. Triple kill comes in for Exileh, but should be shut down. The double kill from MikeyR.
And that looked like a brilliant engage out of Super Team. They got the Tibbers down for the stun after the flash, but it just looks like Eternity have so much health with the itemizations they've got. They've got so much health and resistances. Sunfire, Cape, Spirit Visage onto Rengar, and the Randuins alongside the Ancient Golem on Vi just makes them so difficult to kill that without the amount of damage coming out from Super Team to chunk through those two big tanks, there's no way of a prolonged fight like that going in the way of Super Team.
Yeah, and that will turn into another turret as neither a Baron or Dragon are on the board to really be contested. So again, going from strength to strength, Eternity are firmly ahead and in the lead with about a 7k advantage. I'm just going to have to see how Super Team do or act on the defensive right here, Stress.
And that is the question. As Super Team are a fairly new team in this lineup. Of course, Yerrow is substituting in. Super Team did play quite a lot of ranked 5 games. They ended up being placed very highly on the ladder and qualified for Riot's Challenger, but I'm just wondering, they haven't played in too many tournament style games when the pressure is on, and if they don't get it right in this best of 3, they will be going out of the tournament. So I'm wondering how Super Team EU will dig deep here to try and come back into this one.
Yeah, well, Renekton does offer a lot to a team fight, but later on he just becomes a little more of a CC bot. He still offers some damage and will eventually grind you down, but it's not as scary as some of the other top laners such as Mundo and Shyvana. That's one of the other reasons he's just kind of outclassed at the moment. Evelynn will start to ramp up towards the later on to the game as well, so that's something they can look towards. And Kayle is actually doing very well. Like, during these lost team fights, Exileh is still picking up kills.
God, you can see the health on MikeyR, just how tanky he is right now, and it's so difficult that he's not the only one with that amount of health. Mowarth as well is just so difficult to kill. You can see the Seeker's Arm Guard has been picked up onto Evelynn, sorry, and that will go towards the Zhonya's Hourglass, but that's a long way off. Only 700 gold in the pockets of Evelynn, so still the 500 recipe cost and another nearly 1,000 to be able to complete that. It's just going to be perhaps too little too late unless they can get that out very soon.
So, Dragon and Baron are going to spawn at approximately the same time. The Dragon's going to spawn first, and in fact, we do see Eternity trying to trap this one up. But it means if they did about it too long, both of these objectives would be live, and there is the potential for one of these teams to rush the Baron while the other is taking Dragon. But since this is going to instantly be taken by Eternity, it's not something they have to be too concerned with.
Yeah, Eternity have taken down Dragon uncontested as... It looked like Super Team were perhaps thinking that they were around the Baron. It was not quite in range. That's a little unfortunate on the red trinket.
Yeah, they popped down the pink ward, so it didn't matter too much, but it meant that they couldn't go for the trap they really wanted, and they'll just have to back up once again. So the Dragon has fallen for basically nothing, and now Baron is alive, and we will see the Baron dance, and it has to happen from Super Team Kappa, even though they do not want to really go outside of their base.
Interestingly, there's a visual bug that the Baron buff animation has remained on Eternity. It is just a spectator bug. I wonder whether that's in the game as well, because that really will be a little tricky for Super Team to realize whether they've actually got the Baron or not. But it is just a spectator bug. They don't actually have the Baron buff on them anymore.
That would really play with your mind, though. It's like, oh, Baron's like, wait, what? Because they've just already gone for the Dragon. But they'll still go for this dance, and Mozilla's actually going to be the one who's going to stay a little further up because he's most tanky, easiest to get out of a dodgy situation, and the rest of the team can recall, get some last items before they try and go for this fight.
Oh, Eternity not quite landing the red trinket themselves on that one. Did drop a pink ward. Just seems to be the story of this game, not quite getting that red trinket on the spot for wards.
Sometimes it's a little annoying because you know exactly where they're going to be, but it is ultimately a game of battleships, so sometimes we'll end up not quite clipping it, and it gets quite annoying, but either way, it's not going to be too much of an issue, and Tiridus will have seen that ward as it was placed down.
Even though Eternity have the lead here in this game, they're not really able to accelerate it quite as fast as they would like to. The potential for Super Team to really catch in the counter engage with the Annie ultimate out of Tibbers is a little bit too strong for Eternity to really go all in on, and you can see even pushing up in towards that middle lane, Eternity not quite sure on where to judge their power there.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation mostly for Super Team EU Kappa because they don't necessarily want to go for a 5-on-5 team fight, because time and time again, even when they've been in a better position, they have actually come out worse for it. They will, well, first off, jump onto Mozilla, but he's quite tanky, but not his backline is definitely not immediately exposed. Perfect ultimate comes in from Ginsu, jumps over the wall. He's no longer the target that they're looking for. The Exileh instantly detonates after his ultimate is worn off. Oh, the jump after ChewdUp, after he uses his relentless pursuit. Now Ginsu is back into the fight. Mowarth picks up the kill with Vault Breaker. Mozilla is finally dealt with Gragas and returns the rest of his team. Mowarth should bleed out here, indeed he will. ChewdUp is so very low, but he's able to lifesteal off MikeyR. The baller does not quite connect, and Yerrow and Mozilla are slowly grinding MikeyR down. He is actually very, very tanky, and ChewdUp cannot quite get in range, but this should be this very slow ace, as he has been locked up underneath the turret. There's the ace from Annie. Annie picks up the ace.
And there's the counter engage out from Super Team. It looked great for Eternity. They even managed to get the assault and battery all the way through onto ChewdUp, but he dragged Vi so far away and managed to survive that he just sat around in the back, taking down as many members of Eternity as possible. And the fact that ChewdUp survived on such low health turned that team fight in favor of Super Team EU, because Mozilla did a great job of holding as many members of Eternity away from him as he managed to lifesteal and land as much damage as possible, but he's perhaps overstayed with the recall because he gets hit by Zap, and there's the Super Mega Death Rocket to pick up the kill.
50 seconds on that death timer, and he's going to be in the death chamber for that long. This might be what they're looking for to pick up the Baron, and that would be disastrous for Super Team EU Kappa.
And now as Eternity look to re-establish control of this game, they head towards the Baron area. They should be able to clear that one out, and I'm not sure how much that Super Team EU Kappa can contest this one. The only way in really is a flash in from Ginsu, so he has to come around the side, but already pink warded out. is that area. So good zoning already from Eternity.
Yeah, MikeyR already selfed up. They're in fact gonna just go for this team fight. It's 5 versus 4. They know they'll win it. Exileh has already just tried to back himself up. They do have their cooldowns available. Intervention already used on top of Mowarth's Assault and Battery. Yerrow has been locked up by Nikos and also MikeyR, who is still on the back line. Mozilla is so tanky, but with 5 men wailing on him, he should eventually die. Zap will land. Yerrow trying his best to zone him away. Might die for his troubles. In fact, he will. And Mozilla drops to the body slam of Tiridus.
And that, again, is an example of how Vi... well, no, actually, it's not an example of how Vi into Kale should go. I nearly got that very, very wrong, as Eternity were the ones that picked that one up. Despite Vi ultimating Kale, Kale managed to die fairly quickly on from another big explosive cast from Tiridus. And that might even be the game here, is Eternity have all 5 members alive and only 2 members of Super Team remain.
Yep, Ginsu has dropped himself into Zhonya's, but instantly taken down. Now they have the AD carry, but 1 versus 5, it's not going to be what they're looking for. Ace comes in for Gragas. The Nexus turrets will drop, and that's GG. First game going to Eternity.
And that was such a close game right up until that Baron play. And that is the end of game number 1 here between Eternity and Superteam EU. So we will be back with game number 2 very shortly, guys. Stick with us here on Ready Up TV for the Scan Invitational Winter